did you first, your little ears tune into drums music? I'm really interested how that came about for you, man.
I remember I was a very naughty kid, very, very naughty. I wasn't doing well in school and whatnot, and I think I was bunking off a lesson. I didn't like gym lessons, so I bunking off, and I walked past the music room, the music block, and Fridays was drums. And I walked past and I heard the drums, and I looked up to the window and saw one of my classmates getting a drum lesson. And the drummer was playing on this kit in this tiny shoebox room. And I had my nose pressed up to the window and I was like, what the hell is that? And I just instantly felt a deep connection to whatever that was. I just knew that was something really important. And so I signed up for lessons. I became less troublesome because I had somewhere to put my energy, and that carried on. That passion just carried on. I got as many lessons as I could whenever I could, and I practiced whenever I could. And then when I left school, I just left school and I just hit my practice room. My mum and dad didn't want me to go out and get a job or anything like that. They were very cool, and I started doing sort of these 12-hour drum practice sessions from about 16 to 18, 18, maybe 19. And then I went out. Then I left the practice room fully prepared. I had an incredible technique by there. I was very, very diligent with my practice, very diligent. I came out of that practice room really ready, but I wasn't very good at music yet. So I was good at drums, but not drums within the context of music. So I then started playing in bands. And I think at the age of maybe 20, I got my first sort of gig, and I ended up playing Jules Holland. And my father...
Who were you with, with Jules Holland?
That one was a lady called Willis, and she was like this solo artist, acoustic thing. And I was playing a bongo with a hi-hat with a tambourine on it, and a shaker. So I was playing the backbeat on the hi-hat, I was doing this rhythm on the left, and I was doing a shaker here, and it was a really cool vibe. And REM were playing, and the guy who was producing REM was about to work with Dan and Shingy from the Noisettes, and my dad got talking to that guy, and a week later we were recording the first Noisettes single, and that literally was it. It was like very quick. It all happened quite quick, but it came out of this deep, intense moment of practice. Yeah. So when I had my moment, I could rise to that moment. Yeah. And it's very important. Whenever luck strikes you, you've got to be ready for it. You've got to be prepared for it. Yeah. And so I guess drums. I found drums, and they found me, and it took me away from sort of being a naughty kid, because I guess I had lots of energy, but I didn't know how to put it anywhere.
So I'm interested with again, maybe an obvious question, but I'm just interested, man. So drummers, you must, like me, mate, I had an ear for listening and picking out certain drummers that really inspired you. I mean, who inspired Jamie Morrison when you was first into playing?
When I first got into it, I guess it was like Chad Smith and Taylor Hawkins and Matt Cameron's and stuff. But what I found as I got further into drumming is that I liked certain aspects of pretty much every drummer. And there was no one drummer that catered for all my, oh wow, that guy's just doing, or girl's doing everything. I would take from everyone. So there's always the usual suspects, like the Bakers, the Moons, the Bonhams. I guess someone who influenced me the most beyond drums was this gentleman called Andy Gangadine. Yeah, man. And his sort of way of thinking inspired me. Yeah. His attitude and his forward thinking is what inspired me. And his drumming, I loved his drumming, but it was his mind. And then I like drummers like I think it's Brandy Blade and his brother. He's got a big brother or a younger brother, and they're jazz players, and I loved their feel. And I loved the drummer Matt Chamberlain.
Matt Chamberlain, yeah, I was thinking to say Matt Chamberlain. I know he's played for lots of people, but he played for Tori Amos, I think, quite a lot, amongst many other people.
But I liked his feel, and I liked all the records. I liked that he played on loads of records, because my biggest passion is recording. I like performing, and it's very important, but I love creating textures and feel, and collaborating with songwriters in studio. And it's an art form. It's an absolute art form, which I feel like Matt and Jim Keltner, Hal Blaine's, these drummers mastered. Jeff Porcaro, the ability to play a drum part, but also have the foresight of what's going to happen after in the overdub section, in the mixing thing. And so drums are often done at the beginning of a recording process. In this modern day, drums are often done separately. Sometimes you're not even playing with musicians. That's very common. So if you're starting at the foundation, which we are, the drums are the foundation of a track. You've got to be thinking beyond what you're doing there and then. You've got to be thinking about the mix. You've got so that when you're thinking about that, which is the end of the project. So when you choose your hi-hats and cymbals and snares, I'm in that mind frame. I'm thinking 10 steps ahead. I'm listening to the lyrics. I'm talking to the artist about the story that they're talking about. Is it a true story? Is this what, tell me about it. I'm looking for all of those nuances. I'm aware of perhaps the producer, and I know I might just do a sort of an hour one day of listening to their back catalogue of how they produce and sounds that reoccur. And so, I hear a cowbell in a lot of that producer's tracks. So I'll bring my collection of cowbells that day, because I know it's probably likely. I like that forensic way of thinking.
I was just watching you on a festival performance this morning, just to get a little vibe before we start. And I thought, because I've been on some high rises in my time, but that's high. How high is that riser?
That is, I don't know how high it is, but it's high for a reason. Not the reason you would probably imagine. It's actually to be above Kelly's vocal mic, so my cymbals aren't flying down his microphone, and it's sort of more of a sonic thing, but it does work out as quite a good visual if you're in the audience. And I like being that high. I like the viewpoint. I can see every musician on stage. I can, I'm clocking everyone. Well, I look down and I see Kelly and Richard, and I just, every time I play with them, I always acknowledge that I used to be in a Stereophonics cover band, and now I'm there looking down at Kelly Jones and Richard, and it's like, it's all very surreal. It's still surreal, and this is almost my 10th year in the band, so I've done a good chunk of time there now. But that feeling of pinching yourself is still there. Genuinely, it really is there. It's quite. I'm seeing them tomorrow. We're gonna have a little play, and I just still think, wow, I'm in the Stereophonics. I'm playing those songs. It's ridiculous.
It's a kind of a meant to be thing, man.
That stuff happens,
It does.
It's not just dreams. You can bring these things into existence, by passion and, ability, and, there's that saying, being in the right place at the right time. You can sort of incite that. You can incite that moment. You can make things happen. I made it happen that I'd be in that band. I reached out to them. It didn't just happen by accident. I made it happen. Obviously, everyone had to feel the vibe, but that was the least of my concerns about getting there. It was more, if you can just touch base, if you can find a way to connect, that's the biggest thing. And in this world with Instagrams and Twitters, you can get in touch with anyone. There's no, if you've got a dream, you can definitely bring it into existence. I really believe that. You've got to go out and look for it, and you've got to incite it. You've got to work really hard for it. And then the most important thing, you've got to be able and capable. So this is a whole other realm of thought. So when you do get that moment, that opportunity, you have to be able to rise to that occasion. So that's also a work ethic combined with, I guess, a practice and just staying on top of your instrument. So when I got into my position, I was fully capable of understanding where Stuart Cable was and where Javier Wheeler was, but I also had an understanding of where I felt the spirit of the band sits, and combining all of that energy, I mixed it up and I've taken it forwards. But I also respect the past in the most realist way. I can remember seeing Stuart play, and I can remember seeing Javier play. I've seen the band I've seen them live in all of those scenarios. I've been in the audience and watched those drummers. You know, I watch them and I think, okay, I think Local Boy in the Photograph sounds better at the original tempo. But I've noticed over 20 years of that song's existence, it's ramped up and up and up. So I come in and I'll just play it back to where it should be, like it was on the record. And, you know, it feels good to everyone. I think Kelly acknowledges it, that I'm hearing the songs. I'm not just following what's been before. I study the song. It's never ending. You know, your work will never end. It should never end. You should be able to, if you ever think that you've got to that place, you've not got there.
Yeah.
You know, I got to that place. I got to be in the band, but then there was a whole other set of things that I needed to learn. Stamina. You can't really practice that until you get to the stage, because you can play that long in the rehearsal room, but you know, when you've perhaps travelled all day, slept in a different bed, maybe not eaten a good meal, or you know, for whatever reason, you've still got to play 32, 33 songs that night. There's no down tempo. It's all, you know, it's all up.
Yeah.
And you've got to be, the moment you hit that stage, you've got to be 100%, and you've got to be 100% when you leave that stage.
Yeah.
You know, there's no just getting through the gig.
No.
If you're on top of your sleep, drinking water, eating good food, if you're on top of that extra percent combined with the percentage of your ability, that gives you that X factor, that superhero quality, you know, that thing where it's like, whoa, that guy's just flying up there. I'm not just flying by accident. It's taken a while to get to that place, even when I got there. Yeah. And I know that there's still so much to do. But it's exciting, you know, it's a life's work. It's my life's work.
I had a story about one of the many, many artists that you've worked with. So this could be anyone, but I heard that during rehearsal with that artist, that the artist insisted that everybody put their mobile phones in a bucket or something to make sure that nobody touched their phone. Does that ring any bells with you, or am I just dreaming that up?
That lady was a lady called Duffy, and I thought, you know, she was amazing really for me, because out of the Noisettes, you know, the Noisettes finished very abruptly for me. That was my first band. And I was like, I think I was told by my accountant that I needed a job. You know, you're running out of money, man. You know, that phone call. So I borrowed £5 from my housemate to get a train ticket across London for an audition. Never done an audition before. And the first thing that I see was, you got to put this phone in a box, which is something that happens quite a lot. That was the first time I've ever happened. But stuff like that, that's show business, man. That's part of show business now. That's a modern showbiz problem. But I managed to get this gig, and I spent about a year with her. But it was a bit of a moment where I realised being a session musician isn't kind of my thing, because I like being on the posters, man.
Nothing wrong with that. Listen, I respect that.
Yeah, I like being on the posters, and you know, I like contributing on a deeper level than just recreating a part. I like to get involved with all manner of making the records, to the artwork, to everything. I'm full of ideas, and it's not just drums. So to take away that in the capacity of working with a solo artist like that, it was sort of, I felt like I was only using 10% of my ability. And so over time, I felt like, hang on, I'm sort of squandering my energy now for a check. And that doesn't suit me well, because I play drums because I love drums. And the byproduct of loving drums sometimes is being paid, if you know, and but at the beginning of it, it's the love of it. And so I sort of fell out of love with playing drums a little bit, because it didn't feel like I was being true to myself. And it made me realize, I've got to find a band to be home in, to have a bass camp. And now I play with other people in my downtime, and it feels great because I've got my bass camp and I know where I am, and then I can go and do this and this and this. But when it was only that, it felt a bit lonely for me. I picked up a lot from Duffy. In fact, it was dynamics again, learning to be very intense but quiet, having a very intense rhythm, but it be below the vocal, learning how to work with a quiet singer was interesting. You have to be very respectful of your dynamic and your volume, and it's a great skill to work on always. And talking about like reading music, in that 2-year gap between Noiselets and Stereophonics, I got the opportunity to play with Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. This was a great example of, basically the MD called me and said, "So you read music, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read music. Yeah, I don't read music. No music. I can't read music." So, but I took the gig anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I've got a week in my mind. I've got a week to learn how to read music." So I went down to Denmark Street and went into one of those music shops with all the manuscripts and bought How to Read Music. I bought all those things, and I went home for about 3 or 4 days and just poured over this stuff. Friday came round, where we're headlining this festival in Kent, and I think I've learned how to read music. I think.
In a week?
In a week.
Oh my goodness.
So I went down and I met the MD, and he gives me this folder this thick, and he gives me 2 music stands. He goes, "You're going to need these." Each song had 5 sheets of manuscript. I mean, and I looked at it and my heart sank. I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Was there any rehearsal? No
rehearsal.
Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness.
No rehearsal. I met the musicians that day on the festival site.
Wow. How did you get on? How did it go?
Pretty well. The thing was, the song, you couldn't just know the songs because it was all part of medleys. There was all these stops and showbiz moments.
And you were reading all of that? You read it all?
I had the manuscript to the left of me near my hi-hat, and the musical director was also fortunately in my eyesight on the left as well. And he was very sort of vocal with his hand movements. So if there was a stop, he would always go like that. And so the first song or two was very intense, but then I sort of learned to look at the paper and also look at him as well. And I realized the manuscript was sort of more of a guideline, and he didn't really notice when I didn't do certain things, which there'll be moments that are coming up and I'll be like, "Oh, I actually don't know, but I can feel the music is doing this." And by intuition, I imagine if I do this, it will be all right.
Yeah.
And I just watched him. I watched Martha and the Vandellas who were on the right, and we got through it. And I also got called to do a drum solo. Totally unprepared for that type of drum solo, but I kind of went a bit. I decided halfway through the drum solo to just go sort of Keith Moon.
Okay. Why not?
And it worked.
Yeah,
it worked. And I could see Martha's eyes opening up, like, and she commented at the end of the gig in her dressing room. She was like, "Yeah, that was some drum solo you did there, man." It was like she hadn't seen anything like that before.
Okay.
All right, cool. I did another gig with her, and that was it. But, once again, nothing was going to stop me from having that experience. Instinct is overlooked massively. And instinct can be worked on just like your rudiments. Every time you have that feeling to try something, you should try it. The rehearsal room and the studio are places to try things. And it could be that moment you could do something that could inspire the next musician to have the greatest idea ever, or inspire the songwriter to go, actually, let's try it more like that. You want to try and exceed someone's expectations of the moment. You always want to try and push the moment. And if you're pushing a songwriter's moment in a place that they're not aware there was that place to go, you're always going to work. Because I mean, a songwriter only wants to find the best vibe for their song. They might have an idea, the beat goes like this, but you might have something in your heart that could exceed their expectation of their own song. And if you can bring that to the table, you will work forever. And instinct is such a huge thing.
So it'd be nice about our mutual friend George, and for the Natal people to kind of discuss your love of Natal drums and making them sound so great and your choices. Do you want to kind of share it with the guys about your kit and your choices that you use, mate?
Yeah, well, I find Natal the consistency of their drums. I've taken them out of boxes and I've sometimes not even had to tune them. You know, they always sound great, and that's a big thing. I've got a few of their kits now. They've given me so many. I've borrowed so many of their kits, different sizes and different woods, and I've met the people. And I think what I like the most is the family and the people, and I feel like they listen to my ideas and it's a big empowering thing. You know, drum companies can be this big thing where you can never get hold of the boss or something like that. It's a nice thing where the boss comes to Stereophonics gigs, and and it's like I have conversations about drums on that level, and I like the communication there. The drums are fantastic. Naturally, I have not got a problem at all with them. I've every sound that I've wanted to do in the studio, I can do them. And then live, they're robust. They've never, lugs don't fall out of drums, and you don't find loads of nuts and bolts on your drum carpet at the end of the day. You're thinking, where did that come from? You don't even. So I've had that with other drums. So they're very robust. They can definitely take a kick in.
So the Freddie G Academy, I believe that George says that when you were much younger that you used to go down and check that out
The first sort of 4 or 5 of them. So I went to the London drum show. I got the train on my own, I believe. I was very young, and I saw this advertised that you could have lessons with Steve White and Andy and Mark Mondasia. And I just thought, no way. There's no way. So I made George call my mum to prove that it was real, because I was like, it was like 120 quid or something. It was like a lot of money, and I thought, nah, this can't be real. So I talked to George and I said, can you call my mum, because I don't believe that this is real.
I loved he called your mum to cheers.
And then fast forward to that summer, I was at the academy, and it was such a special time, and it was so pure in Winchester. And you stay on site, and you every day for 5 days you get a different tutor, and it was just so nice to be fully immersed for a week. It really was a special thing, and I went maybe 3 or 4 times after that, and then I later went back to teach there. I just had this moment where it's like, wow, I've gone full circle with it, those moments, I really appreciate those moments, because sometimes you're going so quickly you don't acknowledge these amazing blessed vibes that are happening to you. Sometimes you even just take them for granted. So I just remember sitting on that train with a pair of drumsticks, just thinking about what I'm going to talk to the students about, and it was a really great feeling, and I really take time to acknowledge those feelings. It's so, life can go so quickly, and when you're doing something you love, it's such a privilege. You know, the last year I've been thinking a lot about how lucky I am to do what I'm doing, and you know, it's an important thing to acknowledge your moments. You know, and acknowledge the good moments and acknowledge the bad and learn from the bad. Learn from the bad, and but don't take for granted all these great things. Because you know it can change like that. It really can.
It's being there in the moment and loving it, mate. This has been a wonderful chat. I think the guys at Natal, guys and girls at Natal, are going to be super pleased that we connected, and I think there's nothing more to say, mate. I think we've said and shared some lovely stuff. It's been really nice to see you, mate.
Yeah, and
it's been really good, and obviously big thanks to Natal for linking me and you up for a chat.
We love Natal.